Good evening and welcome to our coverage of the 2024 election on WWL Plus. I'm Sharice Gibson.
And I'm Devin Bartolotta. The polls are now closed here in Louisiana. Besides the presidential race, there are also many state and local races we're watching. We have Katie Moore standing by along with WWL political analysts Clancy Dubose and Ron Fauché. They'll be digging into the race for the White House as those results start coming in as well.
We also have live crews keeping an eye on the major races across our area. Paul Murphy watching the District 1 race from Congressman Steve Scalise's election night party. Whitney Miller is covering the race for Louisiana's new District 6 and watching the race for District 4 and District 2. We have Mike McDaniel and Lily Cummings.
First, let's get out to Paul Murphy on District 1. That covers a large part of our area, including most of the North Shore and parts of Jefferson and Orleans parishes.
Well, Steve Scalise was first elected to this seat 16 years ago. He's expected to win it easily tonight. Paul is at his election night party at Drago's in Metairie.
Well, it's unclear whether Congressman Steve Scalise is actually in the building yet, but I can tell you that this room at Drago's restaurant is beginning to fill up. If you take a look, a lot of Republican leaders from the area are here. Some of those that I've seen so far, the St. Bernard Parish President Louis Paul Mays is here, State Senator Kirk Talbot, and also Jefferson Parish Council at Large Scott Walker is here. Now, I was told that Congressman Scalise cast his ballot. He voted about 2 hours ago, or within the last 2 hours, I should say. He was then going to spend some time with his family before the polls closed, which, of course, has just happened. Earlier, he told me that in addition to keeping his eye on his race, he'd also be looking at what's happening nationally, particularly for the presidential race. Scalise has spent a lot of time on the stump for other GOP candidates, and most recently, over the weekend, he spoke at several rallies for former President Donald Trump. He said in particular he'd be watching Pennsylvania, other swing states such as Arizona and Nevada. He said that tonight the Republicans have a good chance to win back the White House, expand the majority in the House, and also flip the Senate to the GOP. And that's what it looks like right now at the Steve Scalise election watch party at Drago's in Metairie. Paul Murphy, WWL, Louisiana.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. We'll be watching the race for District 6 very closely tonight. The Supreme Court recently ordered the state to create it, giving Louisiana a second majority black district.
Whitney Miller is keeping an eye on those returns in Baton Rouge. Whitney?
Yes, you guys, that new district spans from Baton Rouge to Caddo Parish, and we are here tonight at Crown Plaza Hotel in Baton Rouge for Cleo Fields' watch party, his headquarters here. I'm going to step out of the frame here so you can see the party has gotten started. People, the supporters here are mingling. The food has arrived. People are getting excited about tonight. He is the favored candidate for this seat. Like have been telling you all night, you'll remember this was created after a federal judge ordered the state to redo those maps in order to create a second majority black district. The Supreme Court will soon take up the case once again to decide whether the state relied too heavily on race when drawing the new district. Now, despite the court expecting to make a final decision by next summer, voters may notice that those maps, they were still on the ballot because the court says the issue arose too close to the November elections. The other big thing about this race is that it has a chance to switch the power of a historically red area to a blue area, because there's only one Republican candidate, and that's Elbert Guillory. The other candidates are Democratic, and that's Quentin Anderson, Wilkin Jones Jr., and Peter Williams. If a Democrat wins, it could tip the balance of power for the U.S. House of Representatives. For now, live in Baton Rouge, Whitney Miller, WWL, Louisiana.
All right, Whitney, thank you. District 2 is Louisiana's other majority black district. Right now, it's represented by Congressman Troy Carter.
He's facing another Democrat and several Republicans in his race to keep the seat. Lily Cummings joining us now. She's following that race from Carter's election night headquarters. This in downtown New Orleans.
Devin, Sharice, that is correct. We're at the Metropolitan here in the Warehouse District. We've been here since about 5 p.m. The party actually didn't even start until 8, so we are just now seeing people start to trickle in. Now, Carter, as you know, is the favorite to win this race. He is no stranger to Louisiana politics, serving in the Louisiana House as both a representative and a senator, as well as the New Orleans City Council, and then, of course, going on to take Cedric Richmond's seat as a U.S. congressman. Now, He represents obviously a lot of our state, representing both Orleans, Jefferson, a majority of the river parishes, as well as some parts of East and West Baton Rouge. In total, nearly 750,000 people. We've also seen a lot of support for Carter on both sides of the aisle. He's gotten a lot of endorsements from both Republicans and Democrats in Jefferson Parish, as well as Orleans. So he definitely is the favorite to win tonight. A lot of people are expecting him to retain his seat in Congress, and he did tell us earlier this afternoon when we ran into him, he was doing a brass band and waving to supporters near Napoleon and St. Charles this afternoon. He said he feels comfortable heading into the race tonight. Now, of course, he's going to need a majority of the vote to take this race. However, if he does not get that, it will go down to the top two vote getters in a runoff on December 7th. As you mentioned, he is up against 3 Republicans and then 1 other Democrat, kind of a political newcomer, Devin Davis. So there is a lot to watch here tonight. However, the vibes are feeling optimistic as we await the results here in the Warehouse District. Reporting live, Lily Cummings, WWL Louisiana.
All right, Lily, thank you so much. In District 4, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is facing only one opponent, a fellow Republican. Mike McDaniel is in downtown Shreveport.
Yeah, Mike, this race is much bigger than just Louisiana.
Yeah, hey there, Sharice. Hey there, Devin, and anyone else watching, no matter where you're from. Welcome to downtown Shreveport. I tell you, the party is really well underway and drastically changed when it comes to the amount of people that were here over the past hour. There was moments ago, there was a line out the door, across the street, and then down the block for folks to get in here. A lot of that had to really do with security. As you might would imagine, it's very tight, especially when you have the Speaker of the House here. Folks have really started to show up on the rooftop here at the Remington Hotel in downtown Shreveport, mingling around, watching TVs, having a good time, drinking, eating. Of course, if you see a lot of people looking off to the right, that's because they're watching 2 gigantic screens, which are to my left, kind of watching all these results come in. We see some of the races being called. A lot of folks really paying attention to the congressional races. And I'll tell you, that's the big concern here. It's not so much that Mike Johnson is concerned if he's going to win this 4th congressional seat. We kind of know that's going to happen. He only has 1 challenger in this race. It's a lesser-known candidate. The big concern here, however, is whether he keeps his position as House Speaker. If the Republicans somehow manage to keep control of the U.S. House, he's poised to keep his position as House Speaker. But if Democrats are managed in a way to find some way to flip some of those seats in the House, then they could very well oust Mike Johnson as a Speaker. So that's really what a lot of folks are paying attention to in this race. We'll give you more, a lay of the land coming up in just a little bit. Of course, we don't know if Mike Johnson is here just yet. He did land in Shreveport just a few hours ago because he had spent last night and most of today, this morning rather, out in those eastern states, those battleground states like Pennsylvania as well as the Carolinas. So he has been on the go campaigning for those congressional Republicans that he really wants to be in the House to help him maintain power as House Speaker. Of course, the only House Speaker from Louisiana at this point. He spoke a little bit, I guess it was when he cast his ballot, he spoke about the opportunity to be thrust into that position. He said he was humbled by it. It was not something he went after. It was almost like an accident, but you can tell just from talking to him and hearing him speak that he definitely wants to maintain that position. Now, we did get word just a few minutes ago before we came on air that he's going to be speaking behind me at 8:30. That's the time that they have him set up to go behind me, so we plan to hear from House Speaker Mike Johnson at 8:30 from the campaign watch party here in downtown Shreveport. Ladies.
All right, Mike, thank you so much.
We're going to head over now to Katie. Of course, we have our reporters out in the field, and we have our analysts in-house tonight, Clancy Dubose and Ron Fauché. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're so lucky to have you both, as we are every election night. WWL Louisiana political pollster Ron Fauché, and of course WWL Louisiana political analyst Clancy Dubose. You both are experts in this. What are you thinking as we begin this election night, which could begin an election week even?
Probably an election week, at least till the weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, votes are still going to be coming in. So in any state where the vote is closed, which is not Louisiana, they might not know till Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy considering how, hot tempers are flaring about this out there.
Yeah. One thing I think that's interesting about this election, and it relates, of course, directly to Louisiana, is not how Mike Johnson's doing in his district, but how he's doing his fellow Republicans are doing across the country, as we spoke about before. If the Republicans don't hold the House seat, then Louisiana will no longer have the Speaker. It will no longer have the House Majority Leader. They would then become minority leaders. if they are reelected by their caucus. So that would greatly affect the dynamics of Louisiana dealing with the federal government. And then, of course, whether it's Harris or Trump who wins the presidency, that affects it. So Louisiana's relationship with Congress, with the White House, could be about to see some radical changes.
Have we seen some significant benefits from that in your eyes, Clancy?
I think we've seen some, but I think Mike Johnson, the Speaker, has been focused on national issues and Trump issues. Scalise does what he can, has always done well for the district in terms of, being an ombudsman for people who have a problem dealing with Social Security or a passport or something like that, which is what all congressmen do. But he also has been a real advocate for people in need of help with FEMA. His office has people who really understand that issue, and I think he's got at least one person who is full-time doing nothing but dealing with FEMA issues on behalf of constituents and local governments that are trying to get the hurricane relief aid going as far back as Ida and even all the way back to Katrina. Some people are fighting FEMA because they want to claw back money. FEMA just never seems to not be an issue. And his office is one that's very important in that regard. Something
that is big and new tonight is our new congressional district in District 6. It is the district that was carved out because of Louisiana's population and the need to have 2 majority black districts because of our population numbers. We don't know if this is going to stick. Can you guys talk a little bit about that? Whitney hinted at it during her live shot because that district is still somewhat up in the air. So what does this mean moving forward?
Well, it might be up in the air legally, but it's not up in the air politically. I think Cleo Fields is going to win that seat. He may well win it tonight. And that would not be a surprise to either Ron or me. But what is interesting is in order to create that district, they took away some precincts in Baton Rouge that had been in Carter's district. So Carter's district is not so much on the bubble, but it is not as heavily majority black as the new district that was drawn for Fields. Both of them are majority African American, but it's not like, Carter's used to be 62 or 63% African American and 61 or 62% Democrat. Now it's more like 53% African American, which is a majority, but it's not a lot of breathing room.
Okay, well, we'll have to watch it pretty closely tonight.
Yes,
I know you've got some numbers pulled up on a map over there. We're going to get some analysis on that in just a minute. But Ron, what do you think about the fact that this is still in the courts, and what does the legal aspect of this mean?
Well, the legal aspect is always difficult in these reapportionment cases. You have a U.S. Supreme Court ultimately that would tend to look at this and not favor maybe, having the seat changed the way it was changed. So it really, it really puts it up in the air. And it has a big effect on the state again, as we were talking about. If the Republicans lose control of the House and you have a Democratic president and a Democratic House, then it's going to be up to Carter, and assuming Cleo Fields wins, to give Louisiana its clout in Congress.
Okay, well, that's going to be really interesting.
In addition to the 2 Republican senators.
Yeah, for sure. And, Cleo Fields is somebody who's no stranger to politics. He ran for governor back in the 90s. I mean, he's really been a fixture.
He's a former member of Congress, so he has been there before.
This is not his first rodeo, so to speak. No. So that, I think, is one of the reasons why you both feel like he's easily going to win tonight.
Yeah, he seems to have the political support lined up and among both, not just among Democrats, but also some Republicans.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll have to wait and see that. But Clancy, you have some analysis for us on the maps over there?
Yeah, I'm looking at a map of the 6th Congressional District right now. And as you can see, it stretches from the far northeast corner in Shreveport down the Red River, through Alexandria, connecting to the Mississippi River. In the lower portion, let me see which, it's going to give me that. Nope, that's not what I'm trying to do. Okay, I want to unzoom. Let me get back to the totals of the heat. Uh-oh. I might need some help. Here we go.
Oh,
okay.
There you go.
I think this is the part where you see Elbert Guillory, an African-American Republican, the only Republican in the race, leading Cleo Fields right now. This is with a very small percentage of the vote in, and it's coming from Alexandria, which may be the widest part of this district. So that is not going to stay like that, trust me. But it's showing, only returns from one area. Now, I don't know if I can get it to, let's see, if I can get to the state of Louisiana, see if I can get to, let's see, Baton Rouge, okay? West Baton Rouge, no votes in yet. East Baton Rouge, which is where Fields is from, no votes in yet. And that's population-wise, that's the anchor of this district. In St. Landry Parish, no votes in yet. Going up to Natchitoches Parish, no votes. DeSoto, no votes. And Shreveport, the other anchor, on the far northwest and the southeast portions of that district, where you have the heaviest concentrations of voters, and they're pretty much overwhelmingly African-American and Democratic voters, no votes from there yet. So when we pull out and go to the totals, that's why you see the only Republican in the race, a former state senator from the St. Landry area, Elbert Guillory, leading with just over 50%. But that's all coming from one parish, Rapides. And you see, that's why it's looking like this. When you get to the other parishes, a little bit of Avoyelles, you got a little bit of that end from Alexandria and Avoyelles. Again, those are probably the two widest parishes in this district in terms of, balancing out and getting to connect Shreveport and Baton Rouge. You had to go through a lot of parishes, and some of them are not as strongly or majority African American as you have in Baton Rouge, West Baton Rouge, and Shreveport. Now, here's what's interesting about all of these maps. Look at how this 6th district runs from Shreveport all the way down to Baton Rouge. Now let's look at the 2nd congressional district. It picks up right here is Baton Rouge in this area. That is in the 6th district. The 2nd district now picks up from there and goes all the way down to the southeastern corner of the state. If you look at the statewide map, and let me do that. Let me look at the state of Louisiana. Now I want to get out of that. I want to get to the totals. No heat. Get to the totals. Well, it's not giving me that. But you would see the state just carved in two from the northwest corner to the southeast corner by these two congressional districts. And people complain about, let's go back to the 6th. One of the issues in the lawsuit that was filed by some Republican supporters of Garrett Graves is that this district is not compact enough. Let's look at the 5th district. And look at that. It goes from Arkansas all the way down to Bogalusa. That's the most uncompact district, if you will. It's the least compact district in the state of Louisiana, and it's drawn to favor a Republican. And that's where Julia Letlow, who's, I think, running for a 2nd or 3rd term, she's the widow of the gentleman who won that seat and then died of COVID. And she has run, and she's doing a very good job. She holds a very important seat on the Agriculture Committee, which is what this is. If you wanted to draw a district for agriculture in Louisiana, this would be it. It's got a little bit of Baton Rouge, I would say the white part, Republican part of East Baton Rouge Parish, and Monroe. But other than that, it's a very conservative district. So I'm going to pull it back out now and just go to the totals. Let's go to president, just so we can see where we are in Louisiana. Donald Trump leading Harris 74% to 25%. No surprise. You're going to see New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Shreveport, and some of these Delta parishes go for Harris when all the votes are in, but the rest of it is going to go for Trump.
Okay, so not unexpected there to see those early numbers for former President Trump as he's trying to get his reelection tonight. Any thoughts initially as Clancy's pulling up his numbers, and we're just getting very early numbers at this point.
Well, we need to keep in mind the last 4 presidential elections in Louisiana, Republicans carried with 58% on the average, and there's been very little change. John McCain and Mitt Romney did about as good in the state as Donald Trump did, so they all got about 58%. I suspect we're going to see something like that again. As Clancy pointed out, what we're looking at now is we have kind of what's called a red mirage, where there's more Republican votes coming in. So it looks like there's more Republicans out there. But then as the Democratic cities come in, that percentage will go down. But Trump is still expected to win by a significant margin.
In Louisiana,
yes.
And then
in Louisiana.
We're also seeing that red mirage nationwide too, as these results start to come in. 8:21 right now, and we're just starting to get our real first look at those numbers. But for right now, we want to go back over to Devin and Therese.
All right, thank you guys so much. We are starting to see those numbers come in, and Troy Carter is pulling ahead in District 2.
Now let's get back out to Lily Cummings. What's the feeling in there right now, Lily?
Well, Sharice and Devin, unfortunately, a lot of folks are on the opposite side of the camera, taking advantage of the open bar behind us, but the room is definitely filling up at this hour. I know it looks a little empty behind me, but rest assured there are a lot of supporters out here for Troy Carter tonight. Now, I know you all said that the recent numbers that you're looking at show that he is leading in the polls. Now, that is not entirely surprising. We knew going into this race tonight that he was the favorite, and of course, he has a lot of things on his side. He's no stranger to Louisiana politics, as we've talked about. He served in both the state House and Senate, as well as on the New Orleans City Council. Then when Cedric Richmond was appointed by the Biden administration to work in the White House, he clinched the victory of that seat by a wide margin. So it's really no surprise. In talking with our political analyst Clancy Dubose a couple of months ago about this particular race, we talked about how he has a lot of support from both the black and white community across the various parishes that he represents. We've seen a lot of endorsements for Carter, colleagues in Congress to parish leaders. That includes Council President Helena Moreno, DA Jason Williams, of course, Jefferson Parish President Cynthia Lee Shang, and Sheriff Joe Lapinto and JP. So we've seen a lot of people show their support. Even down the bayou, Parish President Archie Chasson has showed his support for Carter. So he has not only a lot of endorsements, he's also raised $1.8 million according to the FEC. So we know that he is a familiar face to Louisiana politics and to the New Orleans area growing up on the West Bank. So seeing these initial results come in, of course, no surprise. We know that he was up against 3 Republicans as well as a Democrat, kind of a political newcomer, Devin Davis. So seeing these initial results come in, of course, is no surprise. But at this point, we have not seen Congressman Carter enter this venue here at the Metropolitan in the Warehouse District. So we are still waiting to hear from him and his campaign. And of course, once you all call it, and in the studio there with Clancy and the others, I'm sure that we will see a little bit more excitement throughout the room. But as for right now, like I said, people are just starting to file in and enjoy those beverages and get the night started here in the Warehouse District. But for now, reporting live, Lily Cummings, WWL Louisiana.
All right, we're going to check out some results here that are starting to roll in as we begin to get numbers on this election night. And we will be right back with you in just a moment.
Welcome back to our election 2024 coverage. I'm Sharice Gibson.
And I'm Devin Bartolotta. We have been bringing you the first returns along the bottom of your screen as the absentee and early vote results are released.
Louisiana saw some record-setting days during the early voting period, so we have more of those votes than usual. Let's head over to our analyst desk to see what they're talking about and making of those first returns. Katie.
He's Ron Fauché, political pollster with us with WWL Louisiana, is with me tonight. And, you know, what do you take away from having such a large early vote in Louisiana? Is that part of the national trend and the push by Republicans to get their people out to vote earlier?
Yeah, I think what it is 4 years ago, Donald Trump told his supporters, don't vote early, don't vote by mail, because they may steal your votes. This time they changed the tune and they said vote as early as you can, make sure you go vote however you have to vote, and we just need you to go vote. So the Republicans have sent out an entirely different message, and it's increased the Republicans who are voting early or voting by mail.
And here in Louisiana, we're of course seeing those trends toward Donald Trump, which is expected tonight. Talk about that a little bit, and then we'll get over to Clancy, who has some analysis on the map, so we can take a look at the numbers.
Well, in terms of looking at some other states in the South, Trump is now leading in Florida by over 12%. He won Florida 4 years ago by 3%. So that's a big improvement in a big state. He's also leading Georgia right now. It looks like about 5% or so. And of course, Georgia was just, about 2 or 3/10 of a point he won. He lost it last time. So when you look at some of these states, even though it's no big surprise that Donald Trump is winning southern states, he seems to be doing better in them than he was 4 years ago, which might say something about the national vote, but it's still too early to
Still too early to tell. Clancy Dubose is joining us over at the map right now with a closer look at our numbers here in Louisiana. Clancy.
Yes, Katie, as you can see from this map, only a few parishes are being called now. Baton Rouge just came up as slightly blue. Actually, that is Iberville Parish, which is suburban Baton Rouge in the West Bank, and it has a significant black population that is leaning towards Harris. We don't have anything in from New Orleans yet, or Shreveport, or East Baton Rouge, which are the centers of Democratic vote in Louisiana. That's where the numbers are. You will see some Democratic support for Harris up here in the Louisiana Delta, but the rest of the map is going to be almost solid red when it comes in. When you see what we have right now, when we get out of Iberville Parish and go to the totals, and you can see Trump leading with almost 74%. No surprise there.
Yeah, a trend that's going to continue as we move throughout the night. So Sharice and Devin, let's go back over to you.
All right, Katie, thank you so much.
All right, we're going to head out now to
Our election coverage, and we'll send it back to CBS.
Yes.
And good evening and welcome to our coverage of the 2024 election on WWL Plus. I'm Sharice Gibson.
And I'm Devin Bartolotta. The polls are now closed here in Louisiana. Besides the presidential race, there are a lot of state and local races that we're watching tonight. Let's check in now with Paul Murphy. He's covering District 1. He's out in Metairie.
Yeah, Paul, Steve Scalise has held the seat for a long time.
Yeah, there's a loud applause here in the room as some of the networks are beginning to call the race for Steve Scalise. Obviously didn't have much of a competition, no major candidates in the race except for Scalise. So some of the networks now calling the race for Steve Scalise. Now, if you can take a look around the room here at Drago's, there's literally shoulder to shoulder. Republican leaders are here. Many of the local city council members. We saw one parish president here as well. We're told that Steve Scalise has made it here to the restaurant. He is now in a back room watching some of the national returns. This afternoon, we did catch up with the House Majority Leader as he met up with the volunteers aboard an antique fire truck, which has basically become a tradition for him, waving to voters on Veterans Boulevard and thanking them for their support. And again, with no major opposition, he has also spent a lot of time on the campaign trail, stumping for other GOP candidates and former President Donald Trump. Today, he told me that he believes that the Republicans stand a good chance to win back the White House, expand the House majority, and flip the Senate back to the GOP.
Pennsylvania, they're kind of the ultimate swing state. But obviously there's other states too. I mean, you look at Arizona and even a state like Nevada, which is now in play, where we have a chance to win. You know, go look at New Hampshire, which will come in early. If a state like that's even close, it shows you that we have a chance to do really well.
And we are back live here at Drago's Restaurant in Metairie at the Steve Scalise Election Watch Party. Steve is in the building, and we're told that he'll be out here in a little bit to talk to his supporters who have gathered here to watch the vote be counted. We're live in Metairie. Paul Murphy, WWL Louisiana.
Back here in the WWL Louisiana studios, I'm here with political pollster Ron Fauché and analyst Clancy Dubose. You two are ready to call some races. Clancy, let's head over to you.
Okay, looking at the map here, first for president, it's an easy call to call this for Donald Trump.
We're going to get him in just a second. We can't really hear Clancy. We're still on me and Ron, but Ron, you're saying this should be easily called for at least President Trump.
Right. President Trump will win Louisiana, as expected. And Steve Scalise will be reelected. He's the House Majority Leader, and he will be reelected in his district.
Okay. Can we get over to Clancy right now, because he has some other district? There we go. There he is.
Okay, here's the map for Louisiana. Baton Rouge, Iberville Parish. When it's all filled in, you're going to see only a little bit of blue. Up here in the Delta, in Madison, Tensas Parish, up here, that's East Carroll, Madison, and Tensas. They might go for Harris. But other than that, we're going to get to, you're going to see blue in East Baton Rouge and Iberville and in Shreveport and New Orleans, but the rest of it, just about all of it, is going to be red. And Trump right now has 73+% of the vote. That total is going to come down a little bit, probably around 60, maybe a little bit above, maybe 3 or 4 points below, but it's still going to be decidedly for Donald Trump. Now let's look at the congressional district. Ron just said we're calling this for Steve Scalise, easy peasy. We could have called that, last year, but Scalise ran like he had a tough opponent, which is what you have to do, but he's running up the totals. He's going to get probably close to, certainly above 60%, maybe above 70 when it's already done. Second congressional district, this is the oldest majority African-American district in Louisiana, held by Troy Carter. He's pushing 40% now. There's a lot of vote yet to come in. For example, in New Orleans, we have nothing. So when the New Orleans vote comes in, I expect Carter to win this outright tonight. So then let's go back to the totals now and go to the third congressional district, which is Clay Higgins' district. We can call that one too. He's controversial, but he's popular in his district. It now runs all the way from the Sabine Pass in Cameron Parish all the way over to Terrebonne and Lafourche, and he's getting above 70%. And he'll probably get something like that or in the high 60s. In the fourth district, that's the House Speaker's district. Notice how it wraps around the sixth district, which is the new African-American majority district. Mike Johnson's going to win that. He's already got 86+% of the vote. In the fifth congressional district, that is Julia Letlow's district. She's a Republican, member of the Agriculture Committee, very popular and very effective. We can call that for her as well. And in the sixth district, this is the new second majority minority or majority African-American district. Only a couple of parishes are beginning to submit votes, but the majority of the votes and the majority of the African-American votes, which is where Fields is going to be very strong, Cleo Fields, a Democrat state senator, and his main opponent, an African-American Republican, former state senator Elbert Guillory, he's got 52.4 right now, but when Shreveport and Baton Rouge come in, that's going to flip. And I expect Cleo Fields to win it outright. I'm not going to make that call yet, but don't be surprised. We'll make that call as soon as we start seeing numbers from Baton Rouge and Shreveport. So that's what the map of Louisiana looks like right now. And we'll go back out to the presidential totals now. You see, we're starting to see the red parishes fill in. It's just like we said, Shreveport's not in yet, East Baton Rouge is not in yet, and New Orleans is not in yet. And Trump is leading with just over 70% of the vote.
All right, 25% of the total vote in so far in Louisiana. Ron, what are your takeaways, similar to what Clancy had to say?
Yeah, very much so. And one thing, looking at it from a New Orleans perspective, is, New Orleans is a blue city in a sea of red statewide. And even though you've got the other cities, particularly Shreveport and particularly Baton Rouge, that often vote Democratic, the New Orleans percentage for Kamala Harris will be roughly the same that she will get in Washington, D.C., in New York, in Baltimore, in Philadelphia, in other big cities. So New Orleans has become a very, very democratic, very, very progressive democratic city. And while the rest of the state is been solidly Republican. And as we can see, all of our statewide elected officials are Republicans now.
It seems that urban nature of
Right,
the
very
Democratic
much so.
Party and its
Right.
its influence in
Sure.
major cities seems to be something that's being
Very
reflected
much
all over
so.
the country.
Yeah.
And so we're going to continue to see that as these votes continue to come in from these other really states. I mean,
Sure.
talk about overall, you said it's the red mirage that we saw early on as the
Right.
initial votes started coming in about a half an hour ago. When are we going to see more of those blue-centered states come in to figure out who's going to come out on top at the end of the night?
Well, in terms of the national election,
Yes.
it's going to take a few more hours because the big blue-centered state is California. And Harris could very well have a 4 or 5 million vote lead in California or more than that. So, when that goes on to the national totals, her percentage of the popular vote will go way up. Now, it may not necessarily help her with the electoral votes,
Right.
because it's expected that she's going to get that. That's already sort of baked in and calculated, but it will move her vote way up nationally.
Where are some of those electoral votes that are still in play? What are our big swing states
Well,
tonight?
all the big swing states are still in play. It's beginning to look like Georgia may go to Trump. Georgia went for Biden last time. It looks like Trump he may have enough lead to hold it, but still we don't know. I mean, you've got a big Democratic vote in Atlanta and in the Atlanta suburbs, and when all that comes in, that's going to put pressure on those numbers. Then we have the 3 big blue wall states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and everybody's going to be very focused on that. And of course, the other southern state is North Carolina. Trump has carried North Carolina the last 2 times he ran for president, not by big margins, by small margins. The polls showed it very close. So that's another state that we'll be watching.
That is a question mark. All right, Clancy is flagging me over there, saying he's got some more analysis for us. What you got, Clancy?
Yeah, to piggyback on what Ron said, I'm going to highlight some states that Trump is likely to carry. Missouri, Iowa, although the Iowa Des Moines Register poll showed Harris ahead, but let's assume Trump holds on to Iowa. Kansas, Nebraska, North and South Dakota, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, and Utah. Not Colorado, I'm sorry. But when you add up all of those states, okay, all of those western states, they don't even equal, they're just shy of what you have in California alone. So when you look at the map and you see all this red, California by itself can offset it, or slightly more than offset it, because it's assumed, or not assumed, that's the wrong word, but it's expected that Harris will carry Colorado and New Mexico, and it's a dogfight in Arizona. But all of these states, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 10 states there, that California has more electoral votes than all 10 of those states. It's a huge swath of real estate, but not a lot of electoral votes.
Okay, so that's why it makes it controversial. And Ron, you mentioned earlier the push by the Trump campaign last time to get people to not vote early, not vote absentee. Now today we are already seeing them claim election voter fraud in Pennsylvania and some other places. You think that's going to delay things even further as we wait to find out who won this election?
Well, it could. We just don't know, because we don't know who's going to win these states yet. And they're probably going to be pretty close. And we don't know what other stories there are coming out about, people not being able to vote, or machines not working, or whatever it might be, and rest assured there'll be a lot of that.
Yeah.
But just to give it, and as you can see on the national numbers, Trump now has about 178 electoral votes, which is about 90 votes short of winning. Harris has 99 electoral votes, which is, she's got a longer way to go.
Yes.
But once you put California in that mix, that's 55, that brings her numbers way up. You add Illinois and New York to that, and then you get a very close race.
And you got a dogfight.
Yeah.
We're going to see what happens. All right, let's go back over to Sharice and Devin.
All right, thank you so much, Katie. We'll be watching the race for District 6 very closely tonight. That's been a very heavy topic of conversation, obviously, with the changing of the redistricting of the maps. The Supreme Court order recently given to the state to create it, giving Louisiana a second majority minority district.
Whitney Miller is keeping an eye on those returns. She is in Baton Rouge tonight. Whitney?
Hey, you guys. Yeah, I'm at the Crown Plaza here in Baton Rouge, and we are here at the Cleo Fields headquarters, his watch party tonight. I'm joined by Larry Seldridge from the District 67.
Yes, that's
All right,
correct.
so you are here to support Cleo. Tell me, what's your reason for being here tonight?
Well, Cleo Fields is my senator. He represents my district, and I've seen him fight for the people since I've been in the legislature. Even previous, before I was a legislator, he's been fighting for the community. He's had this position before. I'm just excited to see him, go back to D.C.
And this is a big deal. I mean, there are only 5 candidates, but there's only one Republican running.
Yeah.
What does that mean, I guess, just for the playing field here?
Well, I think, that one Republican, they just take a lot of Republican votes. But, as long as folks get out to vote, they know who, the candidate with the most experience. He's been here before. He's proven his leadership. So I think it's going to be okay. I hate that they're going to take votes away from good,
Right, because it kind of splits the votes a little bit amongst them.
The Democrats, but he'll be fine. I think he worked hard, touched the parishes, and proven leadership. So I'm excited about it.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate you. And the party is still going on here. The music is going. The food smells delicious. A watch party is a watch party is a watch party. So we're having a good time here. I did want to ask you something else. Now, This is a big election just nationally. And this election here could change in the U.S. House of Representatives some of the power. It might shift the power. Is that important for you and for
Absolutely. It's very important for Louisianians. It's important for the party. If we can switch that leadership role, switch the power, we can have a lot of influence in D.C.
And Louisiana has already gone red tonight in terms of the presidential election. And this is historically a red state.
It's a red state. I didn't expect anything less. I was hoping for better, but it is what it is at this point. But we can still make a change in D.C., especially when Cleo gets there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. All right, I'll send it back to you at the studio.
All right, Whitney, thank you so much. And we are also watching Troy Carter's race tonight.
Yeah, pulling ahead in District 2. Let's get over to Lily Cummings. She's been out there saying that people who are attending this election night event they're actually enjoying the bar you said behind you. So we didn't see too many people behind you instead.
Devin, that's right. Again, I know it looks like there's this empty room behind me, but on the opposite side of the camera, folks are filling up the room and enjoying that open bar, as I mentioned. So guaranteed there are a lot of supporters here, and there are a lot of supporters for Troy Carter in general going into this race. We know that he is the favorite to win. Looking at the recent numbers from the polls, it shows that he is in the lead. However, he needs that 51% to get him over that threshold so that this race does not go to a runoff on December 7th. Now, we were able to catch up with Carter earlier today as he was waving signs, waving to supporters, as well as with a brass band out near Napoleon and St. Charles this afternoon. We were able to talk to him a little bit about the national level races that are happening, of course the presidential, as well as what's happening within Congress. As we know, every seat in the U.S. House is up for grabs, and he said that he feels confident going into tonight's race that the Democrats would be able to gain some control of the House. He also told us that he feels comfortable in his own race here locally in the 2nd Congressional District, that he feels confident in his lead as well. Now, we did ask him, should Kamala Harris win the presidential ticket, would he take sort of a role in her administration? Has he considered that? And he did tell us that he would want to stay within the House and that he would not consider a position within her cabinet or within her administration. However, he would be happy to get back to work back in Washington, D.C. So a lot of optimism, a lot of confidence coming from the Carter campaign this afternoon, and the party is really just getting started here in the Warehouse District. We're at the Metropolitan, where we're still awaiting Congressman Carter to show up, and many of his supporters as well. We know that he's been endorsed by a number of top officials, from the New Orleans City Council to parish leaders around the region. So we're still waiting for some of those folks to come in as well. As soon as we see them, we'll grab them, we'll get their thoughts on the evening. But for now, reporting live from the Warehouse District, Lily Cummings, WWL Louisiana.
All right, Lily, thank you so much. All right, we want to send things over to Clancy Dubose right now. Clancy, taking a look at the numbers. How's that map changing up?
Well, not much for Trump, but when you get down to the 1st Congressional District, you can see Steve Scalise. The reason we called him His district is suburban. It wraps around Orleans Parish and some of Jefferson Parish. But you can see already the parishes are filling in. They're kind of pink right now, which means they're leaning heavily towards Scalise, but there's not a lot of returns to show a pattern. But I think the pattern is already clear. There are no votes in yet from the very few precincts in Scalise's district that are from Orleans Parish. Interestingly, 2 years ago, Scalise did not carry the Orleans Parish portion of his district. He got just shy of 50%, around 48%. But that was nothing compared, and it looks like it's bigger here, but most of that is Lake Pontchartrain. It's actually, there's a big swath of votes in St. Tammany where he's already ahead, and that's probably just the early votes that are coming in right now. It's not actual votes from today, but you look at St. Bernard, Plaquemines, Lafourche, Jefferson Parish, the West Bank of Jefferson and Lafourche. Nothing yet from Lafourche, but everywhere else where you're seeing votes come in, they're very heavily for Steve Scalise. This is the North Shore parishes, Tangipahoa, Livingston, and a little bit of Ascension, which is abuts Baton Rouge. And then down south of the lake in Jefferson, the East Bank of Jefferson, and St. Charles Parish. All of them leaning heavily for Scalise. So it's no surprise. He's very popular in his district, and he has a record of really, frankly, paying close attention to his constituents. And it's showing up here in these returns. So then looking briefly at the second congressional district, Troy Carter's district, as I mentioned earlier, he's going to jump ahead when we start seeing, the votes coming in. But we still don't have anything yet from Orleans Parish, not even the early votes. But when that comes in, it's going to push Carter well above, let me get to the totals here, well above this 44%, let's call it. I think it's very likely, we're not calling it, but it's very, very likely that Carter's going to win this tonight.
Ron, earlier, Clancy said that it speaks to how democratic Orleans Parish has become, and that has been somewhat of a shift, even though it's always, been sort of majority Democratic. But it's just that majority has gotten so much greater in Orleans Parish.
Yes, it is a super majority. In fact, and we're not seeing the results yet, but I'm thinking back to the governor's race where John Bell Edwards, when he ran for re-election against the businessman from Baton Rouge, Mr. Risponi, Eddie Risponi, a Republican who had never held office, but he had Donald Trump's support. In fact, Donald Trump, as the incumbent president, came to Louisiana 3 times to campaign against John Bell Edwards. And in Orleans Parish, John Bell Edwards got 90% of the vote, which meant he was actually getting some of the Republican vote in New Orleans. And that shows how heavily Democratic New Orleans is. And I think if we can go back, if you want to look at the presidential race, we're not seeing anything right now in New Orleans, but we can go to the previous one in 2020 and look at Orleans. Biden got 83%, Trump got 15% in Orleans Parish, and the difference was a little over 121,000 votes for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. And it will be interesting to see what kind of difference Kamala Harris has. She's going to carry Orleans Parish, and she's going to carry it big. We'll see how big, but as to Ron's point, when it's 83 to 15, that's not just a Democratic district, that is like a solid block.
Yeah.
It's an ATM of votes, if you will, for Democrats. And I don't imply anything improper there. It's just like it's automatic. So, and you're going to see the same thing in Baton Rouge. Biden got almost 56%. And in Shreveport, this is in 2020, Biden got 52.5%. The Trump's almost 46%. So those are the areas where you see Democratic votes for presidential candidates in Louisiana. And you can also go to these Delta parishes where, the percentage looks big, but it's only a difference of 820 votes in these parishes. Madison, East Carroll, and Tensas. Barely carrying it blue, but not by much, and not a lot of votes at all.
We just have to get some more results in, but for now we want to go over to Devin and Sharice.
All right, Katie, thank you so much. I think right now we're going to go over to Paul Murphy. Of course, we've been talking about Steve Scalise. Both of them, Steve Scalise projected to win this race. We just heard it from Clancy, as he mentioned District 1. Paul, what do you have?
And I'll tell you, when it was called, the race was called for Steve Scalise, there was a loud round of applause here. Obviously expected, no other major candidates in the race. So Steve Scalise has been spending a lot of time on the campaign trail not only in his district, but throughout the country, stumping on behalf of GOP candidates, raising money for GOP candidates, and then spending some time on the campaign trail with former President Donald Trump. He spoke at several of the Trump rallies over the weekend, and he thinks by what the early voting told them going into tonight, that the Republicans could be in for a real big night tonight. It looks like, according to him, they have a good chance to win back the White House, to expand the majority in the House, and also to flip the Senate back to the GOP. Taking a look here across the room here in Dragos, basically a who's who in Republican politics here in Greater New Orleans. Several parish presidents are here. We just saw President Matt Jewell from St. Charles Parish, a former chief of staff for Steve Scalise, is here. We're going to talk to him in a little bit. Also, a group of students, seniors from Mount Carmel, are here wearing the traditional Republican red dress. Dress is led by Steve Scalise's older daughter, Madison. So they're here in the house as well. We just saw a worker bringing in a box of signs, Scalise signs, which the crowd will be waving when Steve makes it up to the podium. We told he is in the house now, eating some dinner after voting around 6 o'clock this evening. And his people tell us that Scalise will likely come down and talk to his supporters sometime around 9:15. Watching, obviously tonight he's back in one of the back offices here at Dragos, watching the national scene. He is, like many of us, looking at what's happening in the swing states of Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Nevada, just to see how this presidential race will turn this evening, if we even know by the end of the evening. I'm hearing that probably could be a day or two before they have all the votes counted in these swing states. So that's the scene here over at the Scalise election night headquarters at Dragos in Metairie. Paul Murphy, WWL Louisiana.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. We're going to pause for a quick reset, and we will be right back on WWL Plus. Good evening, and thank you for staying with us this election night. I'm Devin Bartolotta.
And I'm Cherise Gibson. We have another local election update focused on two men who have become prominent Republicans on Capitol Hill, House Speaker Mike Johnson and House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. And tonight we have projected both of them to win in re-election.
Yes, Paul Murphy joins us live now at Scalise's election night headquarters at Dragos in Metairie. Paul?
And I'll tell you, this party is really hopping right now. A short while ago, when everyone called this race for Steve Scalise, there was a loud round of applause. We got a lot of folks here that are also watching the national races. We're told that Steve Scalise has made it here to Drago's. He's in one of the back offices watching the returns, particularly in those states, those swing states of Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Arizona, looking for those returns as they come in as well to see what happens in the presidential race between the Harris and Trump race tonight. As you're looking across the room here at Drago's, who's who of Republican politics in greater New Orleans. We have several parish presidents with us right now, and now joining us, Matt Jewell from St. Charles Parish, you former employee of Steve Scalise's. Talk about what's on your mind right tonight.
Well, look, it's great to see, the race has been called for Steve. As parish president of St. Charles Parish, I'm glad that Steve is now representing the East Bank of St. Charles Parish. Steve's been a fighter for many years for Southeast Louisiana, whether it's lowering the cost of flood insurance, whether it's, domestic energy issues. Steve has been there time and time again, and we're just excited to see that, he's going to be serving for another 2 years in Congress.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. It's Parish President from St. Charles, Matt Jewell, talking with us. He, again, used to work for Steve Scalise on the Hill. Again, a lively crowd here at the Drago's in Metairie. It looks like it's going to be a pretty cool night here for these fans of Steve Scalise, who is expected to come down and address his supporters around 9:15 this evening. And that's the story here from the Scalise Election Watch Party in Metairie. Paul Murphy, WWL Louisiana.
Paul, we know that you talked to the congressman earlier tonight. He has had a little bit of a rough year with some medical issues. Have you had a chance to talk with him about that and how he believes that this might influence another term?
Yeah, he says that he is doing well, responding well to treatment for a type of cancer that he has. He says he is in full remission. I asked him, how much longer do you want to do this? He is now seeking his 9th term in Congress. He says that as long as his health holds up, he wants to stay at it. He wouldn't give me a time for when. He didn't think he'd be running again, but he thinks he has a lot to offer still, and he's not ready to give up the seat anytime soon.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. Our live election coverage continues streaming online at WWL+.
Good evening, and thank you for staying with us this election night. I'm Devin Bartolotta.
And I'm Sharice Gibson. Another local election update focus on two men, again, who have become prominent Republicans on Capitol Hill. We have been talking about these races all night, and as the numbers start to slowly trickle on in, we have called some of those races for Mike Johnson and for House Majority Leader Steve Scalise. So
right now, we are actually going to head up to a new congressional district we've been keeping an eye on. That is District 6. Our Whitney Miller is in Baton Rouge with Cleo Fields. We're going to go live to her now. Whitney?
Hey there, Devin. We are here at the headquarters for Cleo Fields, the watch party. The music is going. We're having a good time. I'm joined by State Representative Vanessa LaFleur. And I just wanted to talk to you about why you chose to come here tonight and to support Cleo.
Because he's been a support for me and my family forever, and I am very excited about his candidacy.
This race is new. The incumbent dropped out of left the seat. And, there are four Democrats and only one Republican. Any concern about that kind of splitting up the votes for Cleo?
No, I trust the voters. I know they know Cleo's track record on education, on economic development, so I certainly think that they have looked at the field and decided that he is the best candidate.
And then, we're hearing about, what are you hearing from constituents about just the national campaign? Because this is a big election this year.
I'm hearing that they're excited, not just for the presidential election, but down ballot, this being one of those down ballot races. They're extremely excited to be voting for Cleo, and everyone that I talk to, they're excited about sending him back to Congress.
Right. Tell us a little bit about his story, because he's been here before.
Yes, he's been here before. That district was done away with, and now we have his district is back now, and he's going to take it back.
All right, well, you heard that here first. You said he's going to take it back. I do want to say, I know this is a little sparse behind us, but people are here all around, all over the place. Right. What's the feeling in the room tonight? We're all excited. This has been a long time coming. And the campaign trail, has it been easy? Hasn't been, but he's done the work. He's knocked on the doors. He's been in all the communities within the district. So I'm really excited about that. They were able to see him, to see who Cleo is outside of the Capitol. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming here with us tonight. I know that we're waiting to hear from Representative Troy Carter, but I want to send it back to you in the studio. The music is loud, the food is good. We're having a good time out here, but I send it back to you there in the studio. Energy is still high here for Cleo Fields.
All right, Whitney, thank you so much. We're calling some races now tonight.
Yeah, we're going to send things over to Clancy Dubose, taking a look at how the maps are changing now. Well, we called Steve Scalise a while ago, and you can see he's got up to pushing 69% of the vote, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him top 70%. But we just recently called this race for Troy Carter, and this is a district that runs from East New Orleans all the way up to the outskirts of Baton Rouge. Carter used to have a little bit of Baton Rouge in his district. Now, not as much because the Baton Rouge African-American precincts are part of Cleo Fields' district, but it is still a majority African-American district. Carter is bumping up against 50% right now, but I think when it's all said and done, he's going to get north of 50%. He's going to win re-election tonight. Look at Orleans Parish. Now, we don't have a lot of votes, less than 3,000 votes, but he's already got over 80%, and this is probably just from a handful of scattered precincts. Second place is a fellow Democrat, Devin Davis. You got to go down to third and fourth place, where together they're getting less than 7%. Among the Republicans. And when you add in all of the Republicans, you've got, maybe 7, close to 8%, but not even 8%. So when you get back to the totals, looking at that district totally, 49.44%. But when you get Orleans, and then let's look at the Jefferson Parish precincts, Carter's getting over 61%. You have a lot more votes coming in, over 44,000. So that's the base for Carter, Orleans and Jefferson Parish. And when he gets 61% there, and then when you move to St. Charles, we have a little bit of it in so far, and that's, it's not that much, so it's kind of mixed. But as you go up towards Iberville, where he's also going to run strong at 46%, but the anchor of that district is, as I said, Orleans and Jefferson Parish. And when all of those votes are in, Troy Carter will be over the top.
Okay, so let's official word.
All right, Clancy, thank you so much. We are going to head now to Troy Carter's party, his headquarters. Lily Cummings is there and has been keeping an eye on things tonight. Lily, what's it looking like now?
Well, I know that we just called the race for Congressman Troy Carter, so he will be headed back to Washington, and this also means he will not be headed to a runoff. Again, as you all were just saying, his competitors in this race, his challengers rather, were 3 other Republicans and 1 other Democrat. But again, Troy Carter capturing the majority of the vote. The excitement is in the air here at the watch party, but as we told you all, the majority of people are unfortunately behind us, the way that they have us set up here with this stage behind us, and then we're on some risers. You can't see the crowds here, but there are a significant number of people here at this point, again, enjoying that open bar, and the energy here is high. Now, we are waiting to hear from Congressman Carter. We're told by his team that he should be coming out in less than 10 minutes or so to give his speech. Again, so we're just waiting on that at any moment at this point. But again, going into this race, he told us that he felt comfortable, that he felt confident. So no real surprise here to see him capture this seat once again. So again, just waiting to hear from him as he gives his victory speech in the Warehouse District at the Metropolitan. Guys.
Okay, I think we're coming over here now. I'm here with Ron Fauché, our political pollster who knows what it means when we start to see these numbers coming in. So, we just called the race for Troy Carter. Clancy saying he thinks he's going to win it outright tonight. What are your thoughts on that as well?
Well, I think Clancy's right about that. The big portions of Troy Carter's district have not come in yet, and he had tremendous political support. He's popular in his district. Having polled him around the state, I can tell you he's one of the most popular incumbents around. So yeah, I mean, it would be a shock if he didn't win in the first primary.
He seems to be willing to work across the aisle as well. I mean, he seems to be somewhat able to navigate that, even though that's difficult given, you know, we have two of the most powerful Republicans in the state, in the country, in our state, so that has to be difficult.
Well, one thing about Carter is a lot of Republicans personally like him. They may not agree with his politics, but they like him. And so he has that ability. And should the Democrats take control of the House, and if there is a Democratic president, Troy Carter's position will enlarge significantly, because he will be one of the few ties between Louisiana and the White House and the and Congress. So his role would take on added meaning. And
when we checked in with Whitney just a little while ago, we did see that Cleo Fields' numbers are getting much closer to Elbert Guillory's numbers. Guillory, a former representative for Louisiana in our state legislature, and now Cleo Fields' numbers are starting to go up. Talk about that. That's what you said earlier, that we were going to see a red mirage for a while before we started to see more of those Democratic votes. And that's exactly what's happening there too, as Clancy said. As we get more, as we start picking up these urban voters, particularly African American voters, candidates like Cleo Fields and Troy Carter will start moving up. And we're already seeing that happening now. Okay, I think we'll probably start seeing that nationwide as well as we move through the night. But Clancy has some more analysis for us over there on the maps.
Well, looking at the map in Congressional District 6, Ron was just talking about Cleo Fields. He has now pulled ahead for the first time, and we still don't have a lot of numbers from Shreveport and Baton Rouge. Shreveport is a light blue, and Baton Rouge is a light blue, meaning there's not a lot of votes there. Let's look at East Baton Rouge, for example. You're talking about less than 10, well, total votes 14,000, less than 15,000 votes. There's a lot more votes yet to come in from Baton Rouge, and Fields is getting 64.1% of that vote, which is why we called it for him. When all of those votes come in, and they come in at that rate there, and then looking at Shreveport, almost 67% of the vote for Cleo Fields. When Shreveport and Baton Rouge come in, Fields is going to be comfortably ahead and above 50%. That's why we're calling it for him. So again, looking at the 2nd Congressional District for Troy Carter, he's presently at just shy of 50%. But again, we're not seeing a lot from New Orleans. But what we are seeing is 80% for Troy Carter. Now, when the rest of the votes come in, if they come in anywhere near that, he's going to zoom past the rest of the field, and he's going to finish comfortably above 50%. And let's look again one more time at Steve Scalise, which is why it was so easy to call his race. Just looking at all the parishes, starting with Ascension, 70%, Livingston, almost 76%, Tangipahoa, 69%, St. Tammany, a big part of his base, 62.5%, which is significant because, St. Tammany, in the last governor's race, gave almost 40% to John Bell Edwards. So this is a nice percentage for Steve Scalise, and this is still early. We're only talking less than 20%. St. Tammany is the largest chunk of Republican voters in the state of Louisiana. And then when you get to Orleans, you have very little, actually nothing. East Jefferson, almost where Steve Scalise lives, almost 68%. East St. Charles, 69%, St. Bernard, 60% plus, Plaquemines, 68 plus, Lower Jefferson Parish, almost 68%, and Lafourche, 82% almost. So again, not large amounts of voters, but the margins are clear all over his district. So that's why Steve Scalise was an easy one to pick as a winner there. And just looking briefly across at Clay Higgins' district, literally every parish is voting for him, from Terrebonne and Lafourche all the way over to Cameron and Lake Charles and Lafayette. And then in the 4th Congressional District, the incumbent Speaker's district, again, a sea of red. There's not a blue dot in this map. If you broke it down to precincts, you might see a few blue precincts, but not many. And then in the 5th Congressional District, Julia Letlow's district, same story. You might see a little bit of blue here in St. Helena Parish. Look at how close it is there. Very slightly pink, if you will, slightly red, but she could, if you look at the rest of them, you got Vinnie Mendoza, who's run before several times, but so when you consider he's a Republican, that puts the Republican vote well above 50%. I think we can safely project her the winner as well, because when you get to the totals in that race, she's above 64%, and you've got over 220,000 votes already cast. So Letlow's clearly a winner there. And we already did the 6th district with Cleo Fields. Again, look at Baton Rouge, look at the percentage, 64.1, and in Shreveport, almost 67%, which is why we believe Fields is going to be the winner there. And looking briefly again at the presidential race, we're starting to see a few more votes in Orleans Parish, 85% for Harris. That's a little bit better than what Joe Biden had, percentage-wise. So this bears out what Ron was saying earlier, that New Orleans is becoming more and more blue, more and more Democratic, and even more progressive, which is the most liberal wing of the Democratic Party. I'm not saying every Democrat in New Orleans is like that, but the way that New Orleans votes tends to be very, very progressive. So you got Orleans, Baton Rouge, again, Harris at almost 59%. That's better than what Joe Biden did. But again, not all the votes in East Baton Rouge Parish are in. And in Shreveport, she's got 55%, which is, I think, a little better than what Joe Biden did. So that augurs well for Harris in Louisiana in the sense of, you know, a Pyrrhic victory or a psychological victory. She's not going to come anywhere near close enough to make this a race or a horse race or a contest of any kind. But it does show that the Democrats are playing to their strengths, and you will see Harris probably lead or come close to leading in these parishes up here in the Louisiana Delta, in East Carroll, Madison, and Tensas, but there's not a lot of people there. And then right here in St. Helena Parish, you know, she's got 51.2%. No surprise there. But the real bulk of the voters are down here in New Orleans, and she's doing even better tonight so far in New Orleans than Joe Biden did 4 years ago.
I think we're going to take it over here just for a quick second. Sorry about that, Katie and Ron. Cleo Fields, as we just heard from Clancy, pulled ahead of Republican Albert Guillory in District 6.
Yeah, let's get back out to Whitney Miller in Baton Rouge. Whitney.
High here. I know that Cleo Fields has just now pulled ahead to about 47%. Most of the night, though, before I think they started doing votes from today, he appeared to be behind, but a lot of people here in this room told me that they weren't worried at all. They knew that once the votes started coming in, that he would pull ahead, and he has. We also asked folks in here today if they were concerned about this having 4 Democratic candidates in this race, and if they thought that would split the vote. And so far, the answer has been they knew that Cleo would pull through. They said that he's the most recognizable candidate in this group here, but we know that he has pulled ahead of Guillory right now. We haven't seen Cleo here in the building tonight just yet, and I'm sure we will see him here shortly. But so far, the vibes are still high. People are still happy with the election so far. They believe that he did his due diligence throughout the campaigning of this race. So we're going to stay here, monitor the polls, monitor the data, and the votes, and we'll bring you the results as soon as they come in. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right, thanks so much, Whitney. And Ron, you had some other insights that you wanted to share with us about the presidential race.
A couple of things. Number one, there's an old saying that voters don't pick their congressmen pick their voters. And Cleo Fields is a good example of that. That district was drawn for him.
Okay.
He had Democrats and Republicans supporting him, and they gave him the district he wanted.
Now, to interrupt you real quick, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, is taking the podium tonight and claiming victory. So let's take a listen.
Thank you all so much for bearing with us tonight. I've been in the war room here. I'm having to manage about 250 races around the country tonight. I want to tell you we feel really good about that. But yeah. One of the reasons that we feel so good is because we're so happy to see all of you. And it's been too long. I've been away a bit this year. We had a few things going on. But we're so grateful that you're here tonight. I don't know if you know this, but they called our race, so I've just been reelected again. Some of y'all come over here and even this out. Look, This is a roughshod production tonight because we've had a few things going on, and I just want to tell you, we're so honored to be serving Louisiana's 4th Congressional District again. It's been the honor of a lifetime to serve my hometown here and the surrounding district. After redistricting, our 4th District now encompasses almost 800,000 people. We've got 20 parishes, 5 media markets, and it goes from the Arkansas state line almost to the Gulf of Mexico. So it's the best part of America. I keep telling everybody. Exactly right. We could not do this without the prayers and the encouragement, the friendship, the support of all of you and people all over the state. And that's what has sustained us in what has been the craziest, most unexpected year of our lives. I don't know if you realize this, but being Speaker of the House was not on our bucket list. We didn't know this was going to happen, and it did. 10 years ago, I was just practicing law here. I had no idea that we were going to get into politics. I had no idea. It wasn't even in our imagination it would be elected to Congress, much less for a 5th term to Congress. And I certainly didn't have Speaker of the House on the bingo card, okay? A lot of reasons for that, but it happened, and we've been called to this service, and we've taken it very seriously, because how many of you know our nation's in very serious times right now? And we got to have steady hands at the wheel, and that's what we've tried to do in these unprecedented, uncharted waters in which we find ourselves. There's never before been a speaker change in the middle of a Congress, ever, in the whole history of the country. And there's never before been a Speaker of the House elected from the state of Louisiana. So that's kind of cool. It's been a wild ride for us. I have had to travel the state, of course, and get reelected and take care of all the issues and things here. But then we also had to travel the country, because the Speaker of the House's job is to ensure that we keep and grow our House majority, and that we get really qualified candidates in these races to flip some of the blue seats to red. Can I give you a good report tonight? I think that's exactly what's going to happen, okay? They gave me the stats today. This morning, I was in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is one of the most important swing states. I did 2 of our key districts there the day before. I did 2 districts in Virginia with our candidates. We've been all over the place. In fact, they told me the stats. As of this morning, I led 342 campaign events in 260 cities across 40 states, and I traveled enough miles to circle the globe 5.5 times. That's what I did in the last 11 months. Yeah. President Trump told me, he said, "Mike, we got to leave it all on the field." And we did. We left it all on the field. Some of you know I was 4 inches taller when I got this job. They beat me down mercilessly. But we're going to keep going. We could not have done it without your help. And I just want to specifically thank the love of my life, Kelly Johnson. We made 25 years marriage this year. I said, boy, if we survive this one, this will be the big one. She made an awesome bio video that broke tonight. I don't know, it was so good, we didn't get to see it, but maybe one day you will. And it was so kind, and she's been the perfect helpmate to me along the way. She is super talented. She is the talent in the family, and yeah, thank you. And because we didn't have enough going on this year, we had a marriage in the family. That seemed like a great idea. Hannah and Cody got married in June. What a brilliant timing that was, guys. Well, we're so glad to have Cody in the family. We've known him since 6th grade. He's a good guy, and they've started their lives. Hannah's about to finish law school, and Abby over here is working in Washington, D.C. now, graduated and going to go to law school. And then Will is our family mascot. Thank you, Will, for taking care of it. Yes. Jack's not here tonight because he's a freshman at the Naval Academy, and so keep him in your prayers. He made the boxing team. I said, son, can we do the rowing team? We don't break our nose 10 times. Anyway, we'll see where that goes. Look, I have to give a lot of thanks, too, to the team. I have the best team in the country. They serve this district so well. I can't even begin to name them all tonight because I think I've got 120 employees now, because that's what it takes to manage all the job of the speaker. But here in the district, they're hard at work, and they take care of our veterans and our farmers and our small business owners and the churches and the families and all the needs that everybody has with the federal government. And they provide the best constituent services. I hear it all the time. People call and text me and stop me when I'm on the road, say, your team is so awesome. And I am so, so grateful to every single one of them for getting the job done. done. Top-notch constituent service is what the people need and deserve, and we're providing it. We are trying to transport Louisiana's values to the swamp, the real swamp in D.C. And you know what those values are. We believe in the founding principles of the country. We believe in the ideas of faith and family and freedom, and we're trying to live that out every day. And it's not always welcomed in the nation's capital, but it's very important for us to do that. I think that what we're trying to preserve ultimately is the American dream. It's only in America that something like this would be possible. And I'm so grateful for all of you for helping us along the way. We got a lot of work to do. And I want to tell you what I believe. We're watching everything very closely tonight. It may be a long night. I think in a little bit we're going to go to Mar-a-Lago, I think, and be down there with President Trump. But I think at the end of the day, at the end of the night, when they tabulate all this, I am very hopeful that we're going to have not only a larger majority in the House to make my job easier, but we retake the Senate and the White House as well. I think that's what's going to happen. Listen, when we win this thing, and I think we will, and not to put the cart before the horse, but we're going to be prepared to lead, because we are facing the greatest collection of challenges that our country has faced probably since World War II, if not the Civil War. We're on the verge of World War III. You have our adversaries that have seen weakness projected on the world stage. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea are actually coordinating together right now. These are very serious times, and we have to take it seriously. And you need serious leaders, and you need a new direction. Now, everywhere I've been around the country, and I told you how many cities and places and events I've done, everybody's fed up and fired up. They're fed up about the cost of living and the rising crime rates and the wide open border and the weakness on the world stage. But we have the solutions to all that. And when Republicans regain control, which we pray tonight that that's what's going to happen, we're going to have the most aggressive first 100 days agenda that anybody's seen in a modern era. And we got to fix everything. I want to tell you, I was with President Trump backstage. I said this on Fox and Friends this morning. I hope y'all weren't up that early, but we did a little thing in a cafe in Pennsylvania, and I told him a story very quickly. I was backstage at the Washington Hilton about 7 or 8 weeks ago with President Trump, and he was crisscrossing the country, and I was doing the same. We're going to different swing states, covering all the bases. We touched gloves in the green room at the hotel, because he had just spoken at a ballroom full of people, and I'd done another event. We were talking about everything. I think by my count, he had done 5 events that day in I think 3 different states. It's about 10:45 at night. We're sitting in the green room talking, and his staff comes in, taps him on the shoulder, says, "Mr. President, we got to go. Your pilots are going to time out on Trump Force 1, which means he'd have to stay grounded. Can't stay grounded." So he stands up and he buttons his coat, and he's about to walk out of the room. And I said, "Mr. President, I just want to say, your stamina is so inspiring to me and to all of us. Mr. President, you didn't have to do this. You had a great life, right? Why would you even subject yourself to this again? You know, I mean, they've been attacking you since you came down the golden escalator. They have engaged in lawfare. They've just tried to destroy your reputation and your family. They've brought you to court, and they've even taken."
All right, right now you're getting a look at Mike Johnson. Of course, we've called this race. He is making his acceptance speech, and right now WWL is broadcasting CBS's national coverage of the election. We'll be periodically stepping in to give people an update on the local races.
We're going to take a quick break while we get ready for our TV viewers to join us, and we'll see you in just a minute.
Welcome back to our Campaign 2024 coverage. I'm Sharice Gibson.
And I'm Devin Bartolotta. We're back with another local election update. The last cut-in, we focused on some prominent Republicans who are projecting to win re-election. And now we're turning our attention to longtime Democratic politician Troy Carter.
Yeah, we caught that race for Carter about 20 minutes ago. Lily Cummings joining us now live from Carter's election night headquarters.
Sharice, Devin, that's correct. We are in the Warehouse District where the energy is definitely high and the room is filling up. We are awaiting Congressman Carter to take the stage any minute now to give his victory speech again. You all called it. He has made it over that threshold of 50%, so this will not have to go to a runoff. Carter, of course, was the favorite to win up against 3 Republicans and 1 other Democrat in this race, but he was definitely the most notable of all of the candidates, having that long-time career here in Louisiana, working in politics both at the local and now national level. Of course, he took this seat whenever Cedric Richmond was appointed to work in the Biden administration. He won this seat in a special election, and now he will head back to Washington to continue his work there. We spoke to him earlier this afternoon. He says some of that work is focused on infrastructure. He's mentioned shoring up drainage projects that he's been working on, and also tackling risk rating 2.0 and the FEMA flood maps that have affected so many Louisianans' pocketbooks lately. So a lot of things happening here in the Warehouse District as we await for Congressman Carter. We'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Lily, thank you so much. We've been, of course, following that race very closely with our political analysts, and Ron Fauché, and Clancy Dubose has some analysis over at the map for us as we take a very close look at the numbers. Troy Carter obviously coming out ahead tonight. Clancy?
Yeah, looking at his district, totally right now he's just under 50%, but if you look at the results in New Orleans, he's at almost 80%, and that's with only, about I'm guessing somewhere around 20,000 votes in. So when you figure how much of New Orleans is in that district, as well as in Jefferson Parish, where he's getting 60% of the vote, when all of New Orleans comes in, Carter will be comfortably north of 50%. That's why we projected him the winner almost an hour ago. All right, so we're looking at our 2 new majority-minority districts going outright tonight. All right, so we're going to continue to follow this very closely on WWL Plus for our extended coverage if you want to switch on over. If not, let's send it back to CBS for more full presidential coverage of tonight's hottest race.
Well, good evening and welcome back to our coverage of the 2024 election on WWL Plus. I'm Sharice Gibson.
I'm Devin Bartolotta. We are starting to hear victory speeches from some of the congressional races being called tonight. And we are going to go right now to Steve Scalise, who's in Metairie.
Opportunity to go to Washington and fight for the things we believe in, to help people on a regular basis, to build a team. And we've got a wonderful team. A lot of our staff is around here that do just incredible things to take care of our military veterans and our seniors on Social Security. But I tell you what, when you look at the ride that we've been on, so many people in this room have been on this journey with me from the beginning. And it starts with my wife, as Cameron said, Jennifer. She is the heart and soul of this operation. And she keeps an incredible family together when I'm in Washington fighting some of these battles. We've got 2 amazing kids that we've been blessed with. Madison, who's a senior in high school. And Harrison, who's a sophomore in high school. You've seen them grow up before your very eyes. Surely it's flown by so fast for us, but it's been a fun ride all along, and we've got another 2 years to fight this battle and go up and, and look, we don't know what's going to turn out on a lot of these other races, as Cameron said, and I really want to thank Cameron because, as he said, we're brothers. We've been dear friends for so long. When I was a state representative and I had one staffer, Cameron was that one staffer holding down the fort, and then he went off into his own right and became a leader, and ultimately is now the Senate President of the state of Louisiana. So doing a great job now leading the state Senate, and I know they've got a challenge starting tomorrow. He's got to get up early and head to Baton Rouge and get our tax structure competitive with other states, because we're going to be a state that leads in job creation. But I tell you what, the United States needs a lot of help right now. We have got to get our country back on track. And that's a lot of what I talked about in these last few months as this campaign's been going on. And look, we never take anything for granted, and we don't run polls per se, and people say, oh, you're going to do just fine. But we went out to every part of the district, including the new parishes that we picked up in redistricting, and asked people for their vote, and shared the vision, and said we want to create more jobs. We want to fight for the energy jobs in Louisiana. So not only creates jobs in Louisiana, but it lowers your costs when you go to the pump, lowers your costs when you go to the grocery store. We need to secure America's border. I've been down to the border, in fact, was just there 2 weeks ago with our Border Patrol agents and had the opportunity to go all around this country in the last few weeks. It's nice to be back home, but when you go around the country, you see the good and the bad. There's states that are struggling, there's people who are struggling, there's people who are doing things well, and you learn a lot of that, you bring it back home. But ultimately, we need to bring those good ideas up to Washington to get our country back on track. And look, I was with President Trump just 2 days ago, traveling. We traveled to North Carolina and Georgia, and right now he's leading in both of those states. So I think we had a good day Sunday. 2 swing states, and he's leading. They actually already called North Carolina. We had a massive crowd in North Carolina. We had a massive crowd in Georgia, and he's leading there too. I sure hope he pulls it out. We've still got a lot of states that are coming in, but so far it's going well. But let's see what shapes up tonight. Obviously, to see what the landscape in DC is going to be. But some things that haven't changed are just the people back here, and just like in this last year, we've had some challenges in our life. I've fought some big challenges over the years. They say God doesn't give you any more than you can handle. I didn't realize how much I could handle over the years. But he's always been there for me, and last year was diagnosed with cancer, and he brought great people into my life to make sure that we had good people taking care of us. In fact, one of those doctors is here right now, Dr. Caldwell, my oncologist, who got me cancer-free in remission, so she's here. Thank you for taking good care of me. I know the kids appreciate that too. Jennifer's got like an honorary MD, I think, with all the things that she's seen over the years. But and I think Dr. Jay's here too, who's also part of that medical team. And it takes a great team, and you just you say your prayers, but when you say your prayers, God brings things to you. You just got to be wise enough to open up your eyes and accept them into your life. And so thank y'all for the help y'all have given me. And we're just going to keep going out and battling as long as I've got the strength and the opportunity. And we just got another 2-year contract, and I look forward to these next 2 years. Thank you again, Louisiana. Look forward to representing you in Washington. Let's go get the job done. God bless all of you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That was Congressman Steve Scalise, who you just heard his victory speech as he is elected to another term.
Yeah, he did detail the fact that he's not joking when he said he's gone through a lot in his life, whether it's health issues. Of course, we know about the shooting that happened a few years ago. So there has been quite a lot that has been going on in his life, but still he maintains a very popular stronghold, especially within Louisiana, different parts of Louisiana. Clancy Dubose was taking a look at those numbers earlier, and I think we're going to jump to Clancy in just a second, but for right now, we're going to go to Troy Carter, who they also called the race for earlier.
Actually, it sounds like we're going to go to Troy in just a little bit here, so we're going to go over to Katie now.
Okay. All right. right, yeah. It has been interesting to watch as this is all unfolding all over the country, both in the presidential race and for the members of Congress, like those who we have declared winners for tonight. Louisiana's entire congressional delegation, we feel like, is firmly locked down, even though the poll numbers are still coming in. And Clancy Dubos is going to give us some analysis over at the map so we can really drill down on those numbers for you. Clancy?
Well, as you can see, as we said earlier, this isn't the presidential race. It's a whole lot of red with a little bit of blue in New Orleans, here in St. John the Baptist Parish, where Harris is getting 63% of the vote. In Orleans, just some of the vote in. Harris getting 84%, and up in Shreveport, Harris getting almost 54%, and in East Baton Rouge, Harris getting almost 54%. But other than that, Louisiana is a red sea. Now let's look at some of these congressional races. We talked already about Steve Scalise, another red sea. There is no part of his district where he is losing, and it's not close anywhere. Second congressional district, this is Troy Carter's district. A lot of votes still out, but Carter already above 50%. And at New Orleans, which is really his base, 79.9%. And this is just with, 11,000 votes or less in. When all of that vote comes in, Carter's going to surge north of 50%, and he's already slightly above it. In the third district, Clay Higgins' district, again, all red. Once you get out of the second district and the sixth district, which are the two African-American majority districts in Louisiana, the districts are going to be all red. The fourth district, we saw Mike Johnson earlier. It's tailor-made for a Republican, especially one like Mike Johnson, who campaigns very well. This is Julia Letlow's district, another Republican, runs from Arkansas all the way down to just north of Baton Rouge and then across the northern half of the Florida parishes. The least compact of all of Louisiana's districts, but solidly red. There might be a little bit of blue here in some of these Delta parishes and over here in St. Helena Parish, but other than that, and even there, she's still winning. And so then moving to the 6th district, which is that new district that Ron mentioned earlier, was created for Cleo Fields, who is an incumbent state senator right now, but we believe soon to be a congressman. It's anchored on one end by Baton Rouge, where he's getting 62% of the vote, and on the northwest end by Caddo Parish, which is Shreveport, he's getting almost 67% of the vote. And there's a lot of votes still yet to be counted in Caddo Parish and also in Baton Rouge. So when all those votes come in, Fields is going to be very comfortably ahead. And as you can see in the total vote, he's already just shy of 50%, but we believe he'll finish with north of 50%.
Yeah, Clancy, we're going to cut you off for just a second because Steve Scalise apparently is with our Paul Murphy live tonight. Very happy man. Paul?
Katie, we're here with Congressman Steve Scalise, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise, who just got a new 2-year contract to do what he likes to do here, is to represent the people of your district.
Well, thank you, and it was an honor. Thank the people of Southeast Louisiana for giving me this opportunity for another 2 years to represent them in Congress. Obviously, a lot we have to do. Still a lot we don't know about these other races. Closely watching the presidential race. It's going really good for President Trump right now, but a lot of states that are still out there, and in the House we still don't know either. But at least we got a big victory tonight, and I'm excited about that.
And you talked just a little while ago in your speech to supporters. You ticked off a few things that you really want to accomplish when you get back up to D.C.
Yeah, if you think about it, Louisiana has a lot to do with what our country needs to get back on track. Getting good energy policy is great for Louisiana, but it's really critical to lowering inflation, to lowering costs. One of the reasons you have so many high costs at the grocery store, at the gas station, on your utility bills is because of bad energy policy. So if we get that right, it will not only create more jobs in Louisiana, it'll bring in more revenue, billions of dollars to restore Louisiana's coast, but it also lowers costs for families all over the country. And I'm going to continue to fight for those kind of policies. We need to secure the border. It affects Louisiana. It affects every state, but that's something we've been focused on as well.
I was just talking to your friend, Parish President Matt Jewell, about Risk Rating 2.0 and the federal flood insurance program. What can you finally do? We talked about this 2 years ago when you won re-election. We've been talking about it for years, but nothing's been done. What can be done to bring down these flood insurance rates that are costing people their homes.
Yeah, we've been fighting against risk rating 2.0 for a long time, but one of the things we're trying to get is just basic transparency to see how they came up with this algorithm that are causing so many people to see their flood insurance rates go through the roof, even though they have better flood protection than they did before. And Matt Jewell is leading the charge in a lawsuit against FEMA. I think he's going to be successful because they've literally been hiding that data from the American people. They're a taxpayer-funded agency. They're going to have to show that, so I think we're going to win in court. And Matt Jewell started that lawsuit, so I think it's going to benefit people all across the country, but clearly here in Southeast Louisiana.
Let me ask you a hypothet. In politics, you don't really like to talk about hypothets, but if President Trump, former President Trump, gains back the White House, what does that look like for Louisiana?
Well, President Trump coming back to the White House will be great for Louisiana. You know, again, he wants strong energy policy. That's great for us. He wants to secure the border. That's important for our security here at home. You know, he stood up to the bullies. We didn't have any new wars, but we also, our allies around the world, whether it's Israel, Ukraine, any other country, knew that we had our back, and the bad guys like Russia, China, Iran were not moving against our friends around the world. So I think that kind of strength is needed in the White House, and hopefully it happens tonight.
Conversely, if Kamala Harris wins, what does that look like for Louisiana?
You know, we've been pointing out all the things that need to change in this country, and I think a lot of people would tell you today, country's on the wrong track, and that means a change needs to happen. You know, that's what I surely will continue to be fighting for, to lower costs, to secure our border. Those are the things that people care about.
One last word for your supporters.
I just want to thank everybody who's worked so hard. And again, all the people that came out to vote, whether they voted for me or not, the opportunity to represent Southeast Louisiana for another 2 years is a true honor. And I really appreciate and look forward to that opportunity.
Thank you very much, Congressman Steve Scalise, again, winning that new 2-year contract to represent the folks in the 1st Congressional District here in Louisiana. We're live at Drago's at Steve Scalise's watch party in Metairie. Paul Murphy, WWL Louisiana.
All right, Paul, thank you so much. We're going to head now to Shreveport.
Yes, Mike McDaniel's joining us now live, where we just heard a little bit from Mike Johnson, who just gave his victory speech. Of course, everyone taking a look at this race because we're talking about the makeup of Congress right now,
yes,
and how important that is. And he said it's still kind of on the fence right now.
Yeah, because really Mike Johnson's race is not really part of the concern here tonight for these supporters, as well as Mike Johnson himself. He just took to the podium a little while ago talking about calling other congressional Republicans across the country who are winning their races, talking to them. He got off the phone with Steve Scalise, congratulated him on his race. But of course, it all comes down to Mike Johnson, not for the 4th district seat. It is his speakership in the House of Representatives. He currently has been there for about a year right now, thrust into the spotlight after Kevin McCarthy, the former speaker, was ousted by his fellow Republicans. Mike Johnson told the crowd here a while ago that that was not what he intended to do, to become House Speaker. It was kind of an accident for him. Never did he realize 10 years ago when he was attorney here in Shreveport that he would, A, be elected to Congress, and then secondly, become House Speaker. But you can tell from his tone tonight, what he told his supporters, that he does want that job moving forward. That's why he spent the past 11 months, almost a year, traveling around this country, campaigning and raising money for a lot of Republicans who were going up for those congressional seats. He did tell the crowd tonight that he was very optimistic when it comes to not only the House keeping the majority and then expanding on it, but also flipping the Senate and winning the White House. So that's where his mind is right now. He is up in the war room, as he calls it, here at the hotel, keeping an eye on all of these races, kind of seeing how everything plays out. He said that he also will probably head to Mar-a-Lago to be with President Donald Trump, former President Trump, tonight, as he kind of watches those results as well. He says his biggest inspiration and biggest joy in all of this, of course, is representing the folks here in the 4th District. But when you become the first House Speaker from Louisiana, you also have the Majority Whip Steve Scalise, also from Louisiana. That's a big deal when it comes to this state. So they want to maintain that type of power, and that's something he's not looking back on. He told supporters here tonight as well, he thanked them for what they've been able to do, because it all comes down to people showing up to the polls, getting out to vote, and that's, as we have seen, been a big turnout for a lot of folks across this country, not just here in Louisiana. Folks here have been out in force tonight, supporting him on the rooftop here at the Remington. You can see, well, you can't see it, but it's over to my left. There are two big screens as these results come in. You kind of hear some cheers every now and then as certain races are called, kind of going through the different states and searching them all. So a lot of enthusiasm here in downtown Shreveport when it comes to Mike Johnson and his campaign, but of course the bigger picture, will he maintain control of the House when it comes to House Speaker? And he believes he will. Live in Shreveport, Mike McDaniel, WWL Louisiana, guys.
All right, Mike, thank you so much for that update.
We're going to head now to Whitney Miller. She is at a race that has not been clearly decided yet. That is the newly established District 6, where Cleo Fields is running. And that's the headquarters where Whitney is tonight in Baton Rouge.
Even though that has been established,
I don't know what you just said, but are you talking about they're jamming back here? I think that's what you might have said. I'm not sure. But they got the line dances going. I'm here with Representative Dustin Miller, District 40, correct? And this has been a kind of an interesting race just because of the number of Democrats that have been running. And so just what he's projected to win, it seems. So tell us what you think how the night's going to end.
Listen, the campaign is still watching every number because it's going to come down to the final, and look, we're prepared for whatever the results is. Senator Fields is content to keep working, and he wants all voters. He don't not only want Democrats, but he want to work Republicans. So we're going to keep working this, keep seeing how the numbers are going to turn out. I think it's good because the majority remaining in the balance of the voters are from EBR. So I think we're going to be okay. But look, we're prepared for whatever tonight has. We're just happy that we're running a strong race and we're going to fight it to the end.
I've been trying to get him out here. Is there a reason why he's still back there?
Like I said, we're watching every number and we're not taking anything for granted. That's if you know Senator Fields, that's who he is. But he'll be right down here as soon as this is over with. He's going to enjoy the festivities, and we're going to see what tomorrow brings him.
So he's making sure he got it in the bag.
Definitely, that's what we're doing.
And when it comes to, this is a big election nationally. What are you hearing from the constituents about just the election itself?
Listen, the constituents in this new district wants representation. They're happy to finally have someone that's an African American like themselves to be able to represent a majority black district. Now we're going to have 2 black congressmen representing us in the state of Louisiana. So they're excited. They're happy. But if you look at the race, you had a lot of blacks. Democrats, Republicans, more Democrats than Republicans. So Senator Fields, what he did was he continued to separate himself, showed that he was the candidate with experience. He had 4 years of congressional experience, and he showed us that he's ready to deliver to the people. He took his campaign to the people. I think his slogan was Fields for Us. So he went all across the district every day. He wasn't a candidate who just hired consultants and let them go everywhere. He wanted to be hands-on. And tonight, I think the results is going to show that Senator Fields worked his butt off all the way from East Baton Rouge to Caddo.
It's getting louder in here because I think they're feeling like the party's almost over or just getting started.
That 50.1 is getting a little closer and closer, baby.
You need a 50.1. You heard it here first. They need 50.1 to feel confident to come out here. I know y'all feel confident, but...
Listen, I feel confident, but we're taking nothing for granted, and we're prepared for whatever the results show us. We're prepared for whatever the citizens and the constituents want us to do. If we got to wake up in the morning and start working some more for a runoff, we're prepared for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, I'll send it back to you in the studio, and we're going to hope that he comes down soon.
All right, yeah. You would think that he would be coming down soon. It's been a while, and I think you both you, Ron, and Clancy have said we think Cleo Fields is going to win it outright tonight and avoid a runoff.
Yeah, and I think that's still the case, but he's only at 50%, and it's hard for a candidate to go out there until he's got enough votes in to lock it up.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're obviously watching the presidential race here in the studio as well, just like everyone else at home, and in addition to keeping tabs on those congressional races. But Ron, I think there have been a lot of surprises tonight as we've seen these numbers come in. Yeah, well, first of all, I've been looking at a few things. One thing I'd like to hit on that we haven't talked about is the race for mayor-president in Baton Rouge. That's one of the most important mayors in the state. Yeah. And the incumbent, Mayor Sharon Weston Broome, who's an African-American Democrat, is running second right now. Wow. The Republican coach Sid Edwards, he's the coach at Estruma High School, he's running first. And there's another candidate, Ted James, who is a Democratic legislator, African-American,
who's running a very close third. So that's a really hot race, and it looks like it's going into a runoff.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting tonight. It'll be a shocker out of Baton Rouge
Sure.
if that's the case.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the presidential race, you know, as we're seeing, it's turning out the way the polls showed. It's very close.
Very close.
Right now, it looks like Trump is ahead maybe in 5 of the swing states. Some of the networks are beginning to say they think Harris can carry Pennsylvania, which could be critical, but Trump still has a little lead right now in more swing states than she does. So that's off to the races. Yeah.
Off to the races, yeah, that's right. I think, you know, pundits are pontificating all over the place whether or not those tiny margins of victory in some of those states, how they're going to end up at the end of the night.
Well, that's why I have this gray hair here. I've had too many election nights.
But you love it, don't you? It's like the Super Bowl for these guys.
No, it is. It is.
All right, well, Clancy is standing by too because he's got some more analysis for us on our numbers. Clancy?
Yeah, I'm looking at Louisiana, a sea of red with just a little bit of blue, but let's look at president nationally, because, Ron, you're talking about the swing states, and I'm going to highlight here the swing states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and then let's look at Arizona and Nevada as well. Those are all states that are pretty close. And as we take a closer look at them, it's not going to give us the totals, but it's going to give us who's ahead by how much. In Arizona, with half the votes counted, Donald Trump is ahead by 2,200 votes. Well, that's not much of a lead. And the one thing we can say that we know is going to be true, the urban vote, which is very much going to favor Harris and other Democrats, comes in late. It comes in last. So with 50% of the estimated vote total, Donald Trump's ahead by 2,300 votes. Just as the polls show, Arizona is the flip of a coin. Georgia, looking better for Donald Trump. He's ahead with 90% of the estimated vote total. He's ahead by 141,000 votes. But if Fulton County isn't in yet, or a lot of votes in Fulton County, which is Atlanta, and the suburbs around Atlanta, if that vote comes in late, this could get very close, and it could go either way. And that's where it came down to that last time, where it took several days for the mail-in ballots and everything else to come in from Atlanta. And in the end, Joe Biden won by less than 12,000 votes. So it could come down to something like that again. It could be in Trump's favor, it could be in Harris's favor. Right now, it's still pretty close. Michigan, Trump's ahead, but it's only 26%. Don't have anything from Nevada. North Carolina, Trump is, comfortably ahead, but we don't know if all the votes from Charlotte are in yet. Pennsylvania, where a lot of people feel Harris is going to do well, Philadelphia is nowhere near complete yet, so we don't know what's going to happen there. Same thing in Wisconsin. So although Trump's ahead in all these states right now, we're getting the Trump vote in early, and we'll see what happens when all of the votes are in.
All right, thank you so much, Clancy, and of course to Katie. We've been following along with this coverage, and the numbers have been, I've been looking at the conversation on social media right now, and Clancy adding some clarity for some people who had some confusion over the numbers that are being called yet.
Yeah, definitely. And we've also, one of the races that we knew pretty early on was going to be called was the race for congressional candidate Steve Scalise's re-election, and he was re-elected tonight. We're going to go back out to Paul Murphy in Metairie, where he is covering the Scalise campaign tonight. Paul?
Congressman Steve Scalise has been re-elected by a wide margin tonight to another 2-year term in Washington. He spoke to his supporters a short while ago, thanking the people of Southeast Louisiana for their another opportunity to serve them in Washington. He talked about creating new energy jobs. He talked about helping to bring down the cost of flood insurance. He also talked about working to secure our borders. Again, he said that he is anxious to get back to work, and that he thanked the people in his district for giving him another opportunity to serve. And a lot of folks here are very happy mood here in the Scalise headquarters. The congressman is making his rounds of the media. We did an interview with him a short while ago as well, and he's also talking to some of his supporters. We're live at the Steve Scalise headquarters in Metairie. Paul Murphy, WWL Louisiana.
All right, Paul, thank you so much.
We're going to take a quick break, and we will be with you coming up for WWL Louisiana News at 10.